What's up guys, it's Travis and welcome back to my channel. Now as you guys know, in my last video we talked about the Coinbase IPO and what did I expected to see happen with the Bitcoin price. Bitcoin almost hit $65,000 a coin and then it drops almost $4,000 on the day that Coinbase decides to have its IPO. Well, in today's video, I want to talk to you guys about Coinbase in particular and whether or not I see it as a good investment. So if you guys get value from today's video, then please make sure to leave that thumbs up button down below and subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future. Let's jump right into it. All right, so to start off with, let's head on over to CoinGecko and take a look at the Bitcoin chart. So right now, Bitcoin is sitting at $62,639. Coming down here, taking a look at its chart, as you guys can see, back here is when we were talking about it, right around the $50,000 range. I told you guys I could see it coming up from here. And ever since then, we've just had this natural growth all the way up to Coinbase's IPO. And that was yesterday. And just like clockwork, we come over here, and as soon as Coinbase has their IPO listing, Bitcoin decides to dump along with Coinbase. And so now the question is, now that Coinbase has had their IPO, do I expect to see Bitcoin continue this downtrend and expect to see some of these lower lows, or do I see this more as a breakout before we continue up to make new all-time highs? Now, as always guys, this is not financial advice. You should never be investing with money that you're not willing to lose. But coming over here to Bitcoin's chart and just taking a look at the 180-day, I see this chart as such a healthy chart. I believe we would have to see some serious negative news for Bitcoin to discontinue this momentum. And as you guys can see right here, we've had some really nice legs up in the past. This one was back in the beginning of January. This one was back towards the middle of February. And then ever since then, as you guys can see, we've been hanging out right around that $58,000 to $60,000 range. And we really haven't had another one of these parabolic growths since then. So like I said before, I am expecting a huge move in the Bitcoin price in the upcoming weeks or so. Now, whether that's to the upside or the downside, right now it looks like it's about to break new all-time highs and make some serious growth. Then I could see Bitcoin very easily hitting the $70,000, even $80,000 range before we start to see some sort of this pullback and some consolidation again. But with that being said, we have closed 6 green monthly candles in a row. Red monthly candles are totally normal to see in a Bitcoin bull market. But anyways, I could go on and on with Bitcoin, but as I told you guys before, today we're gonna be talking about Coinbase. So coming over here and taking a look at Coin, as you guys can see, it just listed yesterday and its IPO price was set for $250 a coin. Now this chart isn't super accurate, but it's telling us that Coinbase shot all the way up to around $410 right after its initial IPO. And then after that, after all the hype, we started to see a huge sell-off. And as you guys can see, since yesterday, it's held this and it's starting to try and create this bottom here. Now, as you guys know, when it comes to charts, I personally like to wait until we start to see these bottoms to buy in or average into my positions. I don't like to buy up here at the tops when all the FOMO is happening, because usually that's when we see a lot of selling. This is a lot of selling pressure. Now granted, the coin ticker has only been listed for about a day now. We don't really have any technical analysis to go off of yet. This is just purely a day's data. So there's a lot that can still happen here. So now I want to go over to Etoro. And if you guys are familiar with the crypto space at all, Etoro is big on trading the crypto markets. They're kind of trying to be like a Coinbase. And Etoro here actually came out with an article on the Coinbase IPO. And I thought it was very interesting. So if you guys want to read more about this, I'll leave the link for this down below so you guys can dive in more to this if you'd like to on your own time. As I mentioned to you guys before, this is so typical when it comes to any sort of excitement that comes in the markets. And this is why I was able to predict that we would see a steady amount of growth up until the Coinbase IPO and then see a sell-off. When an airplane is getting ready to take off, before it starts moving, you can hear the engines going full throttle, giving the plane the burst it needs to get off the ground. And so this applies perfectly to the Coinbase news. As we were getting more and more news on the Coinbase IPO, people were getting more excited. And when people are getting more excited, since they can't buy the coin ticker yet, they were buying Bitcoin and all these other cryptocurrencies. And that's why we were seeing this nice gradual amount of growth in the Bitcoin price up until the Coinbase IPO. All right, so what is Coinbase? Most, if not all of you guys already know what Coinbase is because we've been in the crypto space for a while now, and Coinbase is one of the most prominent names when it comes to exchanges. Well, Coinbase has built an internet platform that allowed customers to easily access Bitcoin and other crypto assets, and it's been in operations since 2012. And Coinbase is actually the first platform that I personally used to buy Bitcoin back 3 or 4 years ago. So as of the end of 2020, Coinbase reported having 43 million retail users, 7,000 institutions, and 115,000 ecosystem partners, spanning more than 100 countries. The lion's share of revenue is generated from transaction fees on trades made on the platform. So if you guys haven't used Coinbase before, then be expected to pay some serious high fees to buy some of these coins. I personally don't like to use Coinbase to buy Bitcoin anymore because I personally don't like paying such high fees in order to buy Bitcoin. But anyways, this is how Coinbase has generated so much money. These transaction fees accounted for $463 million of $535 million revenue in 2019. So these transaction fees accounted for $463 million out of $535 million in revenue for 2019. And for 2020, just under $1.1 billion of $1.27 billion were generated from those fees. So as you guys can see, Coinbase's revenue is almost strictly coming straight from these transaction fees. Now for me personally, like I said, I don't want to pay fees to buy Bitcoin. Nobody does. And as people get more accustomed to the crypto space, we're going to continue to find cheaper and cheaper alternatives to Coinbase in order to buy Bitcoin. And so I think that as more and more people are introduced to the crypto space and we begin to become more educated, I think that these fees are going to have to drop with Coinbase because their competitors are going to try and offer cheaper fees in order to bring in customers. But putting that aside, there are some very impressive statistics for the first quarter of Coinbase. So these are just the first quarter results from Coinbase. There are 56 million verified users, an increase of 13 million users since the end of 2020. So in 3 months, we've seen over 13 million users added to Coinbase. And to put this into perspective, there are roughly 2.7 million people living in Chicago, one of the biggest cities in the US. In 3 months, Coinbase has had 5 times the amount of people that live in Chicago added to their platform, guys, in 3 months, with a total increase of 24 million people since the end of 2019. There are 6.1 million monthly transaction users. That means people that are buying and selling cryptos on a monthly basis. Assets on Coinbase's platform, in other words, all the coins that Coinbase has listed on their platform, added up to $223 billion, which is up from $90 billion at the end of 2020. This is a 13x since the end of 2019. When it had only $17 billion in assets. So the net income for Coinbase was approximately $730 million to $800 million for the first quarter, up from a 2020 annual, means yearly, net income of $322 million. So last year in 2020, Coinbase made $322 million for the entire year. So far this year alone, in 3 months, Coinbase has more than doubled that in the first quarter. All right, guys, so coming over here and taking a look at Coinbase's statements, we're gonna compare 2020s to 2019s and how this may impact my investing strategy for the coin ticker. So as you guys can see right here, 2020 did very well. And most of you guys, if you're new to the crypto space, would say, that's really good. Look at the amount of growth we've seen. But after taking a deeper look at this, there are some underlying issues with this. Currently what I'm seeing, and the reason for this, is because in 2020, we saw the Bitcoin price start to climb. People are getting more excited about Bitcoin. They're starting to invest in it. It was becoming more exciting. And so we began to see more interest with Bitcoin in the crypto space in general. There really wasn't a whole lot of interest in Bitcoin and these other crypto assets because they weren't really doing anything. They were boring. People kind of forgot about it. Bitcoin was just this pump and dump that we saw from 2017. It went all the way up, crashed back down. People called it a bubble, and that was the it for Bitcoin until 2020. And so this would explain why Coinbase's revenue has done so well. So the total revenue for 2020 was $1.1 billion compared to 2019 was only $482 million. So as we talked about before, Coinbase generates most of the revenue from fees. And so with the more interest that we see with Bitcoin and some of these crypto assets, we're going to see more people buying and selling them because they're excited about them. So right now, Coinbase sounds very exciting to a lot of investors, especially people that are investing in the stock market, because they feel like this gives them some sort of allocation to Bitcoin and some of the other crypto assets. Kind of like an index fund. Instead of just buying Bitcoin or buying Ethereum, they feel like maybe if they buy Coinbase, then they're kind of getting a mix of all of them, and so they're getting some sort of exposure to these coins. But that's all I've got for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're able to get some sort of value. If you did, then please make sure to leave that thumbs up button down below and subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future. I'm Travis Trades, and I'll be seeing you guys very soon in the upcoming episode. Take it easy, guys.